How's it going, ladies and Bruce? This up. Sixkilla, welcome back. Sekimeiya. In the last episode, we found two corpses in the elevator, one of them being Naomi and the other one being Mia, which probably represents a failed attempt at resurrecting her by someone who will remain nameless. Anyway, let's carry on, shall we? Akira opened the elevator on the crystal floor, and the same deathly scene was reiterated. Then my reaction was similar to the first time I'd seen a dead body. They were really dead, but their corpses seemed as sterile as dolls. Nothing outwardly indicated their deaths. There was no smell and no substance. Despite how tragic it was, the scene itself felt underwhelming. After a long breath, Akira grabbed the first body, making it look very light. When I looked at her face properly, I saw how much paler she was than normal. She was definitely dead, but I couldn't even see a trace of blood. Nobody was going to lift the other one, so we stood in place while Akira went and came back from the lobby. Quietly bent down to pick up Naomi and brought her there. The closest we could get to the outside world. Inside the elevator, only remnants of blood, buttons inside their covers and scattered screws remain. Does anyone want to come to the attic? I will. Nobody else answered, so both of them stepped into the elevator, dodging the tiny pool that had formed below Naomi's head. Sai still had the attic key, so he inserted it to enable the floor 7 button. They closed the door and let the elevator bring them to the attic, the place the person we were searching for had tightly locked. I turned back and saw Atsuki walking to the lobby. That was what it seemed like at first anyway. On the way, he made a turn and entered the event room. The Sekimeiya was still being kept in the cabinet. Give me the key. Of course, nothing had ended yet. The Sekimeiya had the power to change the past and additionally allowed us to learn what had happened. I took the keyring out and personally unlocked the cabinet. He grabbed the cushion, placed it on top of the cabinet. From hallway A, Akira and Erina looked at him without being able to say anything. For a while, Atsuki stared at the gemstone. But he didn't wait long. Just a couple of minutes later, he reached forward and placed his left hand on it. It's still not working. Why not? I'm doing the same thing. Right, when I put it in the cabinet, the Sekimeiya hadn't been working. That issue was still persisting. It's just cold. He glanced back and saw that the two people who'd gone to the attic hadn't returned. After a pause, he returned the cushion back inside the cabinet. Interesting, like the previous time, he stood in front of it for a while before turning the manual arrow. They're back, coming from the stairs. Did you try to use the Sekimeiya? Was nothing found in the attic? There wasn't anyone, we only found this. In his hand was the key to the attic. This isn't the one that Naomi had. There was another one inserted into the inner lock of the door. That's why we couldn't open it from the outside. What, another one? Yes, my third one, which shouldn't exist. I'm glad you repeated this because I can now point out how that doesn't make sense. You're saying a third one shouldn't exist, but your keyring was supposed to have one, right? Are you and Naomi the only people with this key? Correct, we're the only ones that I'm aware of. I'll say this again. I tried to open the elevator doors and none of them opened. While the culprit could be someone who left and entered the tower, it's possible the people who entered through the storeroom were only the 3 victims, whose presences were harmful to the culprit. 4 of you were still in the attic when I went down. Are you seriously accusing us of this? I'm not accusing anyone. But there weren't traces of anyone else in the attic, and the Sekimeiya is still here. It's moronic to ignore that one of you could have moved the elevator after I tried to open it. Then likewise, it's very stupid to simply believe you. You wrongly claimed that no door had opened. You could have easily done that so we wouldn't check them. I'm going up. Now you want to? After ignoring Sai again, Atsuki walked to the staircase. As soon as he saw he wasn't going to take the elevator, the rest of us followed behind. Did you lock the door on your way down? Yes. Katai inserted the single key and got the door to open. Atsuki didn't waste time before going up the stairs. Sai and Katai's footprints were still visible, so if we stepped directly inside them, I figured Atsuki wanted to see the state of the attic for himself as he went ahead to the hallway. The people who hadn't taken the elevator dispersed through the rooms and each verified that nothing stood out. In the end, everyone ended up scattered through the floor. Erina and Isla sat on the sofa, Atsuki stood in the staircase, and the others remained in the right bedroom. Sai was sitting in front of the elevator, seemingly lost in thought. For many reasons, the mood was dark and it was really burning me out. I walked to the bedrooms and opened the left one. I need to throw myself onto the bed and be alone for some time. "30 minutes later." Do we have a sleep then? I stood in the middle of the floor 3 corridor. I didn't want to see people, so I'd been thinking to myself. As anyone could have been anywhere, all I wanted was to wait. I could perceive faint footsteps above me, signaling someone was on the 4th floor. Are they going to come? I approached a potted plant and sat next to it. Calmly, I kept feeling the seconds passed, appreciating the sensation. When someone finally arrived, it was from the staircase leading down. Atsuki. He ran up to me, looking anxious and disturbed. Are you alone? Where are the others? I am, and I don't know. What happened? You need to come down. Did anyone pass through this floor? I haven't seen anyone, no. He was pretty agitated, so I kept my composure and waited for him to tell me what had occurred. Everything about him gave away that he'd seen something frightful. We need to find the others. Are you going to tell me what happened? I'm sorry. It's on the crystal floor, but we shouldn't separate anymore. He grabbed my hand and dashed toward the way he'd come. You're scaring me. Don't tell me... We ran around the 2nd floor. When we got to the last staircase, Atsuki stopped and looked down. It wasn't visible yet. I took the steps down until the crystal floor was visible through the open door. Erina! Erina's body lay facing down over a vast pool of blood, traces of which started in the middle of the staircase. I didn't have to walk further down to know that she was dead. Behind me, Atsuki hadn't yet stepped down. It was hard to meet his eyes. He looked only at the floor. Damn it, where the hell are the others? Still in the attic? I think someone was on the floor above me at some point. Were you alone when you found her? Yeah. I kept walking down while I silently wondered why he'd been alone. On the floor of hallway C, I pressed 2 fingers to Erina's body and waited for any perceptible movement. I've already checked. She was truly dead. Erina, who'd been quietly following us around the entire day, was not alive anymore. It was such a bizarre sensation. Where's Isla? She can't see this. I don't know where anyone is. They should be up above. It's not possible for us to take the elevator, so let's walk up. We should come across someone. My heavy breathing was interrupting my words, and I didn't let my gaze stray from Erina. Being so close to her, I noticed that the blood was coming out of the part of her head that had hit the edge of the step. Her killer should be here on this floor, but looking for them is way too dangerous. Like I said before, don't go anywhere alone anywhere anymore. Yeah, I know. We ran up the floors. On the 4th was Sai. However, as it was essential to find everyone, we didn't explain fully and kept moving up. 1 floor higher was Katai. On the 6th, Arcado. I saw the attic key was inserted into the door. We all entered to find the missing person. I stared at the floor's footprints, the proof that the past had changed. I had no idea how, but it was undeniable that it greatly had. When every room was looked into, the final result was alarming. Isla had not been found. Isla should be somewhere. Where was she last seen? Only Isla? Then what happened on the crystal floor? Is it Erina? Both of them were here not long ago. Yes, they were sitting on the sofa when I left. In that case, I must have taken the elevator. That was them. Was it up here? Yeah. So Isla could be in danger. All of us ran back down. It was hard to believe anyone wasn't aware of what awaited them. But they had to see for themselves. Shit. How the fuck would Erina be targeted? Everyone saw her dead body over the slowly growing pool of blood. Sai gently checked her pulse and confirmed it for everyone. Why is Isla not with her? It couldn't be that... There's no way. Should I bring her to the lobby? To the lobby? Why? So she's with the others. Sorry, that was stupid of me. This time, this is actually where she died. I went quiet. I began to form a little theory, but it appeared I'd been wrong. After all, I realised I had no idea what actually happened. Could we be sure she was killed? What if she fell off the stairs, which shocked Isla and made her run away? I doubt it. There's a button right here. I followed Sai's fingers to one of the highest steps of the stairs. We walked up and saw a silver button that we'd all seen on Erina's turtleneck. You mean, this points to there being a fight? How else would it have ended up there? Sai's right. This wasn't an accident, and I heard it. I was in the first partition of the 2nd floor when I heard Erina. Her voice hardly reached me, but the words I picked up were enough to understand what was happening. Don't lie. It can only be you. You killed them. What? Then that's why the real culprit killed her. She identified them. Is this true, Atsuki? Yes, I'm not lying. Did you hear anything else? Yes, a yell, I think, from Erina. Then I ran here and saw her dead. This means that the killer's on this floor, right? Maybe when he found Erina, but not anymore. Whoever killed her could be anywhere. However, this changes a lot. What are you talking about? So I went to the storeroom and came back seconds later. The door hasn't been opened yet. Again, let me be clear. One thing would be possible. The real killer killed Erina, then they escaped from this floor immediately. If the real culprit killed Erina, the most likely thing is that they would have left through the storeroom to avoid being seen by Atsuki, as it's incredibly hard to believe they wouldn't have had the key to unlock it. However, that didn't happen. Atsuki didn't find anyone when he ran here, and at this point, I seriously don't think the real culprit would have killed Erina and then hoped they wouldn't be found in a crystal room. So this is a second thing I could believe. That they activated the Sekimeiya and disappeared from the floor. So I seem to have a good point he was getting to, and so far, we were following along. Oh, I can tell if that happened. He made us follow him to the event room. The glass hasn't been opened either. It's very unlikely the culprit had the key, but the Sekimeiya wasn't used. You can tell? Yeah. How? It's because of this thread that I detached from the curtain earlier. Atsuki explained what he'd done. The last time he closed the cabinet, he left a thin and short thread above the movable glass. That way, if anyone tried to get the Sekimeiya out, the thread would fall. It's in the position that it was when I locked the cabinet the last time. So you ripped me off. I guess that removes this option. We all saw the thread and understood that Atsuki was telling the truth. The cabinet hadn't opened, and according to Sai, neither had the storeroom door. Kitai, would there be any way to unlock the bathrooms from the outside if you were to lock yourself in? They have keyholes. Yes, actually. I'm not sure if I still have it, but most employees were given a key to unlock them. So there's one last thing I believe the real culprit could likely have done. Locking themselves in the security room. That's a place where they couldn't be found, as there's no method to open it from the outside. Oh yeah, we can't check that though. Sai ran to the door and tried to open it. It was still locked. It's true that we can't be sure nobody's currently in the security room, but it's unlikely. They can't keep shut in there after 9 o'clock. Is there something you're trying to say? Definitely, I'm trying to say that it wasn't the real culprit who killed Erina, but rather who she thought was the real culprit. Are you seriously saying this? None of us would kill Erina. Don't lie, it can only be you. You killed them. What I draw from that is that she thought otherwise. She thought one of us was the culprit, however, she might have been incorrect. Sai's voice sounded serious. We'd learned long ago that a killer had been with us. So, the look in everyone's eyes told me that they wanted to figure out who they were before they could become victims themselves. I doubt she would have been incorrect, given how it ended up. Why? The voice came from the staircase, right? We figured there was some sort of scuffle because of that button. This means that there was a fight above the staircase between Erina and who she thought was the real culprit. No matter who that person was, it could have easily ended with Erina falling or being thrown off the stairs. It doesn't matter if that person had killed anyone beforehand. But none of us could have done it. Wrong, you could have. However, we're already believing you by thinking this way. Right off the bat, the two main possibilities are that either the person behind every other death killed Erina, or that Atsuki did. They could even be the same person. Technically, Isla could have too. You're insane. It's possible she's still here though. Frightening prospect, but we need to find her. Could she really be here? If she hasn't shown herself, what does that mean? Sai looked into the first rooms in hallway A. We stared at him, nearly immobile, only twitching every time a new door was opened. He went from door to door, narrowing his vision as he peered into each new room. After opening the furthest away crystal room, A1, Isla's head peeked out. We ran there, relieved to see her safe. What are you doing here? We were looking at the gems, and Mum said to stay in here. What? Yeah, there's one I really like in this room. We looked at each other speechless. She didn't know what had happened. After some uncountable stretch of silence, it became clear that none of us had the strength to say it. So you haven't moved from here? She nodded. Did you come here from the attic? Yeah. There was only silence and devastated looks. Ignorant Isla shrugged, slightly confused by our behaviour. Do you want to see it? It's really pretty. We'll come see it in a bit. Okay. With a smile, she walked to one of the uncovered curtains and admired a tiny black stone displayed individually. Slowly, Sai shut the door to leave her in peace for as long as possible while she did as her mother instructed. We'll be back in just a minute. We looked at hallway C and witnessed again the sight Isla was ignorant to. As we retreated, we heard Sai talking in a whisper. You heard what Isla said, right? Before dying, Erina told her to stay in that room. She knew she was going to confront the person she believed to be the killer, and she didn't want Isla to see it or interfere. Now tell us, Atsuki, why did you say that none of us could have done it? Because I left the attic first. I walked down, but I couldn't really bring myself to go to the crystal floor. That's why I stayed in the first partition of the second floor, thinking to myself. From there, I would have seen anyone cross the floor. But you didn't see Erina. Like you said earlier, Erina and Isla must use the elevator to reach the crystal floor. That's right, I heard the elevator once. I did too. Yes, me too. Katai and I were the ones who brought it to the attic, and afterwards, we left through the main door. This means it's very likely the elevator was moving down and arrived on the crystal floor. So I approached the elevator and opened it successfully. It had been left on the crystal floor. In addition, the panels haven't been attached yet. This means that it couldn't have been called from here. In floor 1, the floor 1 button was pressed from the attic, which leaves the following way possible. Someone took the elevator with Erina and Isla. That's how the killer could have gotten to the crystal floor without being seen. Did anyone see both of them taking the elevator? Everyone's head shook. We could ask Isla, but even if she says that no one else is with them, we can't blindly believe that. It's possible she was threatened. What did everyone do exactly? Atsuki began. I'll repeat what I did. I was the first to leave the attic, and I went to the second floor. I spent several minutes there, during which I heard the elevator once. Then Erina's voice echoed to me, but it was very muddled. All I recognised was, don't lie, it can only be you. You killed them. I ran down the staircase and heard her dead. I didn't see or hear anyone else, so I ran back up to find you all. Right, he found me first, since I was on the third floor. I left the attic later than him, and walked through the floors until I stayed on the third. I just wanted to be alone for a bit, but I didn't feel like staying put somewhere. However, I ended up spending most of my time on the third floor, where I heard the elevator. I spent some time in the partitions and some outside. Some minutes later, Atsuki came running from below. So you're already unable to prove that you didn't take the elevator with Erina and Isla. Did anyone see you leaving through the main door? Nobody answered. Can you prove you didn't go down with them? No, but Atsuki saw me on the third floor immediately after he saw Erina. I don't think accomplices came into play because it seems like Erina was killed after she accused someone of being the culprit. However, since you and Atsuki know each other, he could be covering for you. Also, if you took the elevator with Erina and Isla after killing her, you could have used it to reach the third floor, and from there, you could have sent it back to the crystal floor. Remember when we sent it from the 6th floor to the crystal floor? We heard no noise. If at that point Atsuki was already running down the staircase, he might not have heard you. Did you check the elevator when you found Erina? That doesn't matter, I can confirm that she didn't take the elevator. You can, Katai? Yes. That's because when I left the attic, only Erina, Isla and Arcado remained. Everyone else had already left. I looked everywhere to see who had left, and I also opened the elevator in the attic, as I thought of using it. However, I ended up walking out through the main door. This means that only Arcado could have taken the elevator with Erina and Isla. I see. Say then, what did you do? I recall we found you on the 5th floor. Precisely, that's where I was the entire time. In the attic I spent a few minutes in one of the bedrooms with Arcado. Soon, I noticed some people had left, so I checked to see who remained. I was a bit angry people were entering and leaving the attic without my consent, so I went to find the people who had left. That's Katai for you. However, I reached the 5th floor and recalled the 2 dead bodies, most importantly that a killer was around. That's what made me stop. I had thousands of things to think about, most importantly, who was going in and out of the fucking main room without my consent. And that's what I did. I went over the incident to see if there was any conclusion I could get to, but ultimately, I didn't move from there. I heard the elevator once, which was the only sound that reached my ears until you guys came. It's fine by me, and I can confirm it. He's telling the truth. The reason why I stayed on the 4th floor was different from everyone else. It was because I quickly began to hear noises coming from the floor above me, more specifically footsteps, that I now know belonged to Katai. I paid attention to see if there was anything I could figure out from them, but they simply kept going in circles, so it gave the impression that whoever was walking above me was either lost in thought or fairly nervous. For most of the time, the sounds of footsteps came directly from the 3rd partition. However, during the last few minutes, they left it and started to come from outside the partition. When I heard the elevator, I thought the person above me would come down. That never happened though, and the footsteps never ceased. There was no time for Katai to do anything. I'm glad we settled this quickly. This also confirms that Sai was telling the truth. Everything that he said is correct, which means that he was on the 4th floor the whole time. Arcado, you left, and you understand your position, right? Yes, but I don't have much to say. I left the attic when Erina and Isla was still sitting on the sofa. I'm pretty sure Katai is right, and they were the 2 people remaining in the attic. I knew most people had left, but the 6th floor was completely desolate. I also had quite a few things to think about, so I eventually sat where you found me and spent the whole time there. I actually didn't hear the elevator, but I was pretty far from it and not paying much attention. I have a question. Why didn't I hear your footsteps if I was directly below you? That I can answer. Haven't you noticed? Arcado doesn't make much sound when he walks. That threw us all off, but we confirmed it. could have walked around in front of us and his footsteps were very quiet. I know what you're all thinking, that I could have gone to the crystal floor with Erina and Isla. Of course, Isla could verify that didn't happen, but even if I'd managed to make it to the crystal floor, I couldn't have been found on the 6th. According to Sai, Kitai spent the last few minutes outside of the partitions, one floor below me. That means if I'd killed Erina, to make it to the 6th floor I would have had to either use the elevator or walk up. Doing that without being found or heard would have been impossible. Is that it then? Was Atsuki right? None of us could have done it. I'm not sure I can think of a way out that doesn't involve the Sekimeiya. We'll get there though. I can think of one, I suppose. Everyone looked at me, but I only had a random, unlikely sounding thought to let out. I'm just saying that Sai and Kitai could technically have done it, right? Their versions of events are just covering each other. That's not true. Did you not hear what Arcado said? He said that when he left the attic, Erina and Isla were the only two people left. That means that Kitai and I couldn't have gone to the crystal floor. You could have. Erina and Isla used the elevator alone from the attic, however they got off on floor 4 or 5, where you two were. This is the way you could have gotten to the crystal floor with a single elevator trip. I don't mean to say I believe it to be the case, but I'm answering what you asked. Then you could have taken the elevator back out while Atsuki and I were on the crystal floor, which we wouldn't have heard. I see. So then you could also have done this. Yes, which is why we should ask Isla. Once we rule that out, it seems like all of us have some sort of alibi. Then, the last way, using the Sekimeiya in the future. Atsuki confirmed it wasn't touched up until now, but it could be used later on. They can invalidate everything we thought of by just appearing in the crystal room from the future. However, I believe we can figure out whether that's the answer. So I walked to the room where Isla was, so we followed him. With what we talked about, could Editor's killer be identified? I don't think so, but there was a chance I was failing to consider something. How you doing? Huh? I'm fine. That's good, I have a question. When you came from the attic, you used the elevator, right? Were you and Erina alone? Yeah? We were, why do you ask? What the fuck? Whoa, I didn't see that coming. Erina, what are you doing here? What am I doing? She was there, casually leaning against the line of cabinets. I can't hardly believe what I was seeing. There's no weariness in her eyes and not even a trace of blood near her. What's with those looks? You don't know what happened? What happened? So I responded only by looking at Isla's curious face, which communicated to Erina that it was something your daughter couldn't hear. She stood up and came to us, clearly oblivious. This is the second time she's died, but not really. Can you stop doing that, Erina? Wait here, sweetie. Okay. Erina, what happened since you two left the attic? What does that mean? People were leaving and Isla said she wanted to come down too since she hadn't seen all the gems. I noticed she'd been trying to cheer herself up a little despite the two bodies we'd found. So even though I didn't want to leave, I just led her so that it took her mind off it. And you took the elevator? Yeah, she wanted to. There was still a little bit of blood inside, but she insisted. Are you going to tell me something? She noticed we all looked like we were staring at a ghost, and she began to look seriously unsettled herself. And you simply stayed in this room. There's potentially still a killer around, and I especially didn't want to move around this floor or go to the lobby. I noticed she was focused on one of the gems, so I told her we'd stay there. I wasn't going to leave her alone unless we guaranteed we were safe. So just earlier, when we talked to Isla, you were here? What? Yeah, behind the door. I didn't know if you needed something, but of course I was inside. Finally, Erina noticed where our lines of sight went and turned around. There was no pause before the gasp came, so the corpse is still there. That's... What's wrong? Nothing. Please stay here. She walked to the face-down body and realised that it had been no misinterpretation. Her clothes were the ones stained by blood, and the body was her own. Oh my god, this is... me? How can... There's no way. Her face broke down instantly, before it was proof that she could soon die. Even though it had already happened, the Sekimeiya's existence allowed it to be a future event. Of course, that made everything even more strange. Would she travel to the past after coming up with a conclusion on who the killer was? We know it happened a few minutes ago, but we have no idea what actually happened. We thought you left Isla in that room. She can't see this. Edna ran back and tightly gripped the doorknob. Should we bring that body to the lobby? No, we'll have to go there eventually. So much blood can't be removed either. Isla, I'm sorry, but we need to go back to the attic. Why? I want to stay here. Please do me a favour and come with us. We perceived a tiny nod, Relieved, Erina crouched to pick her up and brought her to the staircase, covering her face on the way. I'm not tired. We can just take the elevator. I thought you preferred being picked up. You can walk if you want. No. There we go. It seemed the surrealism wouldn't end anytime soon. Everyone was glad to see Erina safe, but sheer bewilderment was even more dominant. Even Atsuki, who had assumed would be out of it for the rest of our imprisonment, had proven otherwise. However, it had made sense. After all, whatever his plan entailed was still bound to happen. That was unquestionable. Once Erina and Isla had disappeared from view, Sai opened the elevator. We should send the elevator to the attic. That'll be of use. Oh, sure. I unlocked the floor 7 button with the key and pressed it before stepping out. After that, we walked all the way up. On the way, I had to stop to drink from the sink in one of the bathrooms. It wasn't exactly high quality water, but it somewhat satisfied my thirst. And after some of the others did the same, we arrived at the attic's door. I thought you took the elevator. We sent it up empty. We saw Isla in the living room. Before Erina could join her, Sai grabbed her sleeve. This is a very important question. Who do you think the killer is? The killer? I've no idea. I don't only mean the person behind whatever happened just now. I mean in general. Ever since this morning. I know, and that's what I answered. According to Atsuki, he heard you accusing someone of being the killer. Once he ran to the crystal floor, he saw your body. What? I don't know. I don't have a clue who the killer could be. I don't know anything about this. Just let me be with my daughter, please. She entered the room and followed Isla to the hallway. Then maybe she actually saw the real culprit. Since it wasn't anyone she'd seen before, that was all she needed to know, that it was them. You could be right. The Erina who died, she could have only come from the future. So she could have had a better idea of who to suspect than she does right now. Yeah, that's what I mean. I have no clue how this could work though, or why she travelled to the past. I suppose it tells us the Sekimeiya is bound to be used again in the future. Technically, all Erina needs to do to be safe is to not travel to the past. She has to though, or else what happened makes no sense. Fuck sense, man. Don't you find something strange? How come Erina didn't hear her own words if she was in hallway A? Isla should have too, right? Didn't you say that she yelled? Yes, are you suspecting me again? Oh no, actually, I meant to suspect Erina herself, since she's another person who could have technically done this. Wouldn't that just be nuts? Suicide via murdering yourself? Before you ask, I don't believe that happened, no, but it's a little strange. It's not. The noise came from high in the staircase. So it had to go down and maybe through the door to reach where Erina and Isla were. Given there's less echo on the crystal floor, it makes sense that they heard nothing. That could be it. I remember that Isla nodded when I asked her, so you haven't moved from here. She probably thought you meant her and Erina, so by answering yes, she meant neither of them left the room. You're insistent about this. He sat on one of the steps, wondering whether he had something else to add, evolved into a few minutes of silence. I just have no idea what's happening here. Atsuki could keep denying it, but he's behind some of it, if not all. Why do you say that? You've been hiding something since very soon after we got trapped, and the girl who appeared in the elevator has to be your doing. Do you still deny that? I don't deny it. I'm aware it has to be my doing, but I haven't done anything. I know what I would do. Don't know what I would do either, and the Sekimeiya doesn't work. I promise I'm much more confused than you were. I don't think you did anything to Erina, and so far the 4 deaths could have had a motive in common. The policeman could have entered through the storeroom, and then he was killed because he was a direct threat. The 2 in the elevator could have had the same motive, but they were seen as threats. Both of them could have gone through the storeroom door as well, since they weren't found until much later. Finally, Erina might have confronted the killer. It could be that the 4 dead people were all seen as threats by the same person. This stupid storeroom door is what pisses me off the most. Are people really entering and leaving the tower without being seen? That's ridiculous, right? But it's a fact that it was open. Remember what I said? There's no way it leads outside. There's no way it doesn't. In fact, it's still incredibly likely you went through it. I didn't. I never knew about it. Katai, if the culprit is just one of us, it's you. You disappeared for almost 3 hours and appeared right before the policeman did. Before the elevator opened on the 6th floor, I already had tried to open it, and it was you who stayed in the attic last. You could have moved the elevator from the attic to the 6th floor, and you could have also locked the attic from the inside. I did none of that. But what happened with Erina is what gives you the most benefit of the doubt. Right now, the people who could have killed Erina are Atsuki, Erina, Isla, the real culprit if they're none of us, and anyone who travelled from the future to the crystal floor. If we remove those last 2 options, our choices will diminish greatly, and it's possible we can, like I said earlier. If someone travelled from the future and killed Erina, Either they're still here, or they left the storeroom. In other words, if we're unable to find anyone, and I can confirm that the storeroom door didn't open, we can remove those possibilities. They can be bypassed with the Sekimeiya by using it to travel to a place that's just been examined or outside the tower. However, Atsuki can confirm whether the cabinet was open. I believe we have the circumstances here to accomplish a definitive search, specifically one where time travel isn't going to fuck us. So you're saying that if we don't find anyone, Atsuki's the culprit? He, Erina and Isla would become the only 3 people who could have done it. This is the conclusion all of us reached. Let's do it then. Yes, I think your logic is right, but Atsuki can't be the culprit. Okay, if we do it well, no matter what the result is, it'll greatly indicate something. We walked up to the living room. Through the hallway door, we saw Erina and Isla getting closer. What's that? Look what I found. With 2 hands, Isla was holding one of the bed sheets, folded up into a sphere. It was wrapped around something, and I could tell what Isla was going to say before she did. This is Sekimeiya. What? The Sekimeiya's on the crystal floor? No, I have it here. It was in the wardrobe. I knew I wasn't allowed to touch it, so I had to cover it with this. Great, how did this thing even end up here? Is that so? Let us see. No, we need to put it in the cabinet, right? Yeah. Is she telling the truth? I don't know. She opened the wardrobe and grabbed the top bed sheet. When I stood up to see what she was doing, I couldn't see what she had. There's no way it was brought here since we saw it in the cabinet, right? It could only have happened when we were talking to Isla. If there was a time neither the staircase nor the elevator were being observed. It really may be teleported. If the cabinet is empty and the thread is still there, it must have teleported out. I see, you're right. Let's do what we're talking about on the way down. If we have to Sekimeiya while we search every floor, there's no way it'll be used to bypass us. But shouldn't we hurry up? She's right. You know how important it is that we do this properly. We'll do it fast. Isla, we'll stay here while they go down. What? No, I'll keep the Sekimeiya safe. She tightened her arms around the ball, and Erina shut her eyes. On the way to the event room was a dead body Isla couldn't see. You should do as your mother says. You can trust us to take good care of it. I can do it better, and it's dangerous to be alone. That's what you said earlier. It's fine, we'll go. After that, Isla, we're coming back up, okay? Yeah. Isla looked genuinely happy to escort the Sekimeiya all the way down, but there was no chance Erina would let her finish the trip. The elevator is here, and we can hear it if it's used. The intent is to make this perfect, and that won't be an issue either as long as we confirm it's empty before moving on. Alright, with that we need to wrap this one up here because we're out of time for today. Erina keeps doing the "oh, I'm dead, but no, actually I'm still alive" thing. And the last one, we didn't check her body properly and it turned out she was still alive, despite the fact that she was covered in blood, and this time she's both dead and alive at the same time. She's Schrodinger's Erina. I mean, we already know that we're going to do a whole search of the building and once again find nothing, because that's what we always find. Nothing. But we're going to do it again anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks again out for me, and I'll see you in the next one.